This is the first look we're getting at whatever they called a Demon Hunter rework. Melee attacks have a chance. Oh my god. That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Hey guys, real quick, just want to thank the sponsor of this video, Factor. If you guys have ever watched my stream, you know that I'm pretty terrible at remembering when to eat.
Dude, I think I might need to eat before we like finish this, or else I'm just gonna actually like pass out. Okay, dude, just give me a second. Just give me a second. Can I just take a few more bites?
But thanks to Factor, that's no longer an issue. With Factor, I've been getting fresh, pre-prepared meals sent to my door that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, which is perfect for when I'm streaming or in the middle of the race.
Just give me like a few more bites.
Meal plans range from 4 to 18 meals per week, and you can easily add more or reduce the number depending on your specific needs. Plus, you can even skip a week if you need to. And as some of you may know, I've previously worked with HelloFresh, which now actually owns Factor. So if you want an even wider array of meal plans to choose from, you can hop between the two at a discount.
All right, I think I'm all juiced up again.
Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code MAXIMUM50 to get 50% off of your first Factor box. That's factor75.com or the link below. Use code MAXIMUM50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Thanks, Factor.
All right, let's get it. Okay, Blood Decay 2-piece. Consuming a Bone Shield charge, which is what it was previously, has a chance to cause your next Heart Strike to apply Ashen Decay. And now they changed it to Consuming Runic Power. Oh, that's probably a little bit of a nerf, right? Because you're going to consume more Bone Shield charges than you're going to spend Runic Power. Actually, it's probably close. But that's just going to feel better because it like works better rotationally. Much more control. You're gonna know, like, once you Death Strike, once you spend Runic Power in any way, you know that you have a chance for your next Heart Strike too. Does it make your Heart Strike light up when you have this tier, by the way? Oh yeah, also, yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. When you're not tanking, this doesn't work. So now when you're off tanking, okay, great. Just overall, really good change, yeah. Let's go. Big dub for Blizzard. We'll update the tier list later. Death Knight Frost 4-piece. Oh, they nerfed this. Okay, I kind of suspected that. So Chill Streak can now bounce 2 additional times, and every time it bounces, you have a 30% chance to gain a rune and all of this stuff. So they probably... Oh, they nerfed the duration, too. That's a large nerf. I'm not insanely familiar with it. I really liked reading this. I just love Chill Streak as a button, although I do have some issues with this being a little bit too AoE focused, or too target focused, even though it bounces off you now. But that's a massive nerf. They must have felt like that was way too strong. Guardian. Oh, this is actually big. So the Guardian set was pretty not great looking. And as we've been talking about for the last couple weeks, tank tier bonuses are very, very important. Just without getting too in the weeds of it, if you were to look at the power increase that tier gives certain roles in the game, like the potential swing of a tank going from a bad to good tier set or a like mid to good or whatever, it's just there's more power to be gained from a tank tier set. They're giving you roughly the same damage increase as a DPS one, plus they're also potentially massively buffing your defensiveness or giving you a lot more coverage. So Druid's current tier set, like going into Season 2 is probably the best example of this, right? Like Prop Paladin at the end of Season 1 hard dominated. The only thing that really changed from Prop Paladin in Season 1 to Season 2 is they had a really good tier set and they went to a mid one to bad one. And Guardians got reworks for sure, but also just an amazing tier set. And that kind of stuff matters a lot. In fact, I'm kind of concerned that going forward, whatever tank is the best might just be the tank that hit the hardest on tier because tier is just that good. I don't know if that's a bad thing, right? Like, I don't know, like basically if you were to ask tanks like, hey, would you rather have your sets all be super mid so it's not what defines what class is meta? You'd probably prefer they all just have really powerful, cool ones so you're powerful in like a different way every season, I guess is kind of good. I don't know. So they buffed the Guardian one. So now, actually, is this a buff? So it's kind of like Ignore Pain, right? So, I mean, it's probably going to feel much better. So 20% of your damage and healing, whatever, during your Rage of the Sleeper fuel the growth of this, which wreath you in their protection, and then when it expires, you absorb 25% of the damage dealt to you while the thorns remain. So you're going to have this big absorb on your bar, but it's not going to absorb all the damage. Previously, it was just 10%. It actually looked really weird on beta or PTR, because you would just have this massive absorb, but you would still be taking tons of damage. It was like Ignore Pain, like a shitty Ignore Pain. Now, 25% is a bigger number, but like, if you have a 1 million absorb and you're going to absorb the next 1 million damage done to you, whether it's done in 10% of the damage you take increments or 25, it's technically the same value. But 25, you're going to feel that more. I think if you could put it like this, right? If you have a if you have a weak aura that tracks you having this reduction to you, or you can see the absorb on your bar, a 10% isn't coverage. Like, on a lot of really hard pulls, a 10% mean you might die, where a 25%, even if you have it for a shorter duration, can mean it will actually not make you press something else. So I'm starting to think that this is just like a good change, even though it's technically not more mitigation. It's just going to be more impactful, I think. And then the 4-piece, each 40 rage you spend while it's active extends its duration by 1 up to 5 seconds, and your Dream Thorns become Blazing Thorns, causing 100% of the damage absorbed to be reflected to the attacker. So a big damage increase on that too. Okay, so we'll try this on the PTR. I'm assuming that the testing will start tomorrow, although they have started it early before, so that's that was a typo. The 4-piece is actually the same as it was before. Oh, okay, never mind. The 2-piece change, though, I do think is interesting, but keep in mind that tank tier bonuses are potentially way too impactful overall. Consuming clear casting grants spell damage by 2% up to 20 seconds, stacking up to 10%. This is just a quality of life change. Maintenance buffs are really annoying in this game whenever you don't get them for free. Like, let's just say on one pull, you don't get a clear casting in 15 seconds, or there's some kind of downtime or something, you feel terrible. So 20 is just going to make it more likely to not be annoying. So fine change. And then they changed the 4-piece, which people said was really, really bad. So after you're consuming clear casting 3 times, not 6, your next arcane missiles, it says it consumes forethought and increase. Okay, it increases arcane battery, dealing 150% increased damage to your primary target, and fires up to 4 nearby enemies, dealing 100% increased damage. So this was one thing where they were complaining about it before, because you don't actually use arcane missiles in AoE, and the number wasn't high enough. But I'm assuming they just buffed the amount of damage. Like, clearly what they want you to do is they want you to cast arcane missiles on AoE, and it should be a button that when you press it, you're gonna like, okay, I'm going to fucking destroy these mobs by pressing this. This actually sounds really fun. I hope these numbers are big enough, but if whatever the result is whenever you get this proc, you press arcane missiles on AoE and your damage goes way up and you do insanely high 5 target damage, I think that's really, really awesome. So that looks sick. When Pyroblast and Flame Strike critically strike, you gain Searing Rage, increasing your critical strike damage by 4% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 20%. Okay, so just a buff from the 2-piece, which doesn't really, not something you interact with, but yeah. And then now, okay, they did this again. Okay, so buffing the Mage Tier bonuses. Activating Combustion increases the critical strike damage bonus of this by 150%. So now your combusts are going to be fat as fuck, and then you're also just going to have higher base crit damage. I'll get back to the mages when I hear about the number. Less interesting than the arcane one, but this kind of just buffed the fuck out of both of those. Monk, the 2-piece Breath of Fire deals 20% bonus damage to Shadow Flame and causes you to heal for 50% of all of your fire damage dealt. Oh, wait. So you were healing for 50% of any fire damage dealt? Like, if you played with a fire mage, you were just like fucking, oh, trinkets probably. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, and then the Windwalker. Okay, here we go. No more toes, guys. They already got rid of toes. This was an old change, I believe, except they did buff it. Okay, so this is really, really interesting. Melee attacks have a chance. Oh my god, can't believe it's still. Okay, you know what? It says melee attacks, which makes you think this could be things that are also like Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Pressing Fist of Fury, all those things. Currently, this literally means your melee swings and nothing else, which is the big problem. Let's see if they change that here. Ah, yes, they did change that. Deal melee swing and melee ability. Okay, so whatever it is, it'll just make the proc more consistent. They also added just a PPM to it, which used to be 0. So now you'll roughly get 1.5 procs per minute. That's actually really low. That's really low, right? You're going to get a proc every 45 seconds or so. If that ends up being correct. Build for haste. Yeah, let me just do that. Okay, but then they also buffed it by 150%. There's a couple of bugs. I don't know if they were bugs or not. But as far as I'm aware, the blackout kick that was buffed by 150% was not working with Teachings of the Monastery, was not working with shadowboxing treads. That would make this way better. And then also, when you had Dance of Chi-Ji procs, it was giving you this bonus. I hope they keep it that way. I love playing Dance of Chi-Ji in single target. And in a way, if they're thought of nerfing the proc rate but then giving you better value, that's actually going to feel better for gameplay, because if you're already playing Chi-Ji and you have this and it's proccing all the time, it could just make your rotation feel like shit. Like Dance of Chi-Ji alone, if you guys have ever played Windwalker, when you're playing single target Windwalker, like you're single targeting a boss in a Mythic Plus dungeon where you are already playing Dance of Chi-Ji, right? So it's not in your normal single target build, but you are using it in single target. In my opinion, that's great. Like, I think Dance of Chi-Ji, spinning crane kick procs in Monk's single target is a great proc. It doesn't define your rotation. You play around it when it happens. You can get lucky. Sometimes you don't get lucky, but it's not super impactful, but it just feels good. So if you like doubled that or tripled that by having like a really high proc rate on this, which is basically what's going to feel like a Chi-Ji proc, that could actually end up defining your rotation and feel really bad. So I'm kind of talking myself into the 1.5 procs per minute actually being kind of good, and I like that this is higher, and I hope they fix a few bugs with it. Paladin, Prop Paladin 2-piece. Judgment grants a stack of Sanctification, reducing your damage by 2%, which more was increasing your armor. Great change. Upon reaching 5 stacks, your next cast of Consecrate is empowered. Yeah, still the same Consecrate thing. I'm not going to give my too many thoughts on this, because this could be really good, and as a Prop Paladin, you already want to stay on your Consecration anyway. This will make your Consecration bigger, and it'll make it do more damn. All that's fine. You getting a passive 10% DR from this Judgment shit is fucking huge. So, I mean, this is definitely a really good 2-piece here. But I'm not going to give... The reason why I'm not going to go too hard on the Consecration thing is I just very firmly believe... I've played a lot of Prop Paladin in my day, and I played it a little bit last season. Did, like, all the keys on it. I think the gameplay of Prop Paladin, putting down Consecrate and standing in it for defensive value and needing to, like, constantly replace it every time you move and not having any talent or way for it to follow you or stay on you or anything... I just think that's dog. I think it's bad. I play that class, and I'm just like, this class is fun. This specific thing is bad. They're, like, super tied to it. And they're also making a tier set about it. So I'm not going to go hard on it because I just hate this. I hate, if I read Consecration in a Prop Paladin tier set, I'm already mad because I just think the gameplay's terrible of that. But that's not going to change anytime soon. So, okay. Prop Paladin 4-piece. They gave you bonus damage. Okay, so they just buffed this. Prop Paladin Ret tier piece. Nerfed the Expurgation Dot. This looks like a nerf? Oh, there's a lot of numbers here. Let's read their actual thing. It looks like a nerf, but also there's just a lot of, you know. Paladin Ret 2 4-piece. Wrathful Sanction grants you Echoes of Wrath, causing your next Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm to deal damage a second time at whatever effectiveness. 25. Okay, so massive Ret tier nerfs. Assassination, which I've heard, we haven't looked at it yet. Apparently they moved around Assassination's tree a lot. Envenom with Envenivactum explodes, and they buffed it by a decent amount. I still am a little weird with this tier bonus. But if the damage is good enough, that's fine. So I guess, like... So the reason that I think this exists is now the way they change Assassination is in AoE when you're using finishers in a dungeon, you have always, like, put up Crimson Tempest and you spammed Crimson Tempest. But now that Crimson Tempest is something you put up and you don't really spam it, or at least that's the design, you're going to be envenoming in between or putting up extra Ruptures. If you're ever envenom... Now it's going to feel good to envenom in AoE. I think they're kind of solving a class problem with tier, and I'm always a little scared of that, as long as they're willing to, like, move it into the class later. Like, if you're like, hey, there's an issue with our class right now, and it's that in AoE, now that we've made it so Crimson Tempest isn't spammed, which is good, we want you to be pressing more Envenoms after you're fanning in AoE. Well, that feels weird. Okay, let's make Envenom AoE in that scenario. Okay, let's put it in a tier bonus. Great, but then, like, now you go to next tier, and then the same problem persists, right? So as long as they're keeping their eye on that. That's happened with Windwalker all too many times. By being the only way you get realistic Rising Sun Kick and Fist damage. Ellie Shaman 4-piece, consuming P-Wave, and for 10 seconds afterwards, Lava Burst burns your target for 25% additional damage for 4 seconds, and for 10 seconds, each cast of Chain Lightning causes your next Lava Burst to hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock for 100%. That's insane, right? Wait, when consuming P-Wave, and for 10 seconds after, Lava Burst will burn your target. Okay, so just 25% extra damage on Lava Bursts, and then when you're AoEing, which is when you press Chain Lightning, your Lava Burst will also hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock. Wait, isn't that just what P-Wave does anyway? Or is it going to extra cleave? Because P-Wave just shoots a Lava Burst at all the targets with Flame Shock, but now each target with Flame Shock is going to shoot 3 extra? That's fucking crazy. That's gonna... Dude, I feel like that might, like, lag your fucking game out. Anyways, Ellie's usually always irrelevant because they don't have a raid buff, so we'll move on. Unfortunate reality. Resto Shaman, Chain Heal, nerfed by this, causing them to receive 15% of all Riptide healing you do. You deal for 15 seconds. Okay, so nerfed the 2-piece, and the 4-piece was they nerfed it. Okay, so here's the big problem. So people were figuring out that the Shaman tier set actually was pretty powerful, and it could kind of scale pretty wildly. But from what I heard is it's terrible to play. It didn't even feel like you were healing a fight. It felt like you were playing your tier piece on a raid frame. So that doesn't feel good in general, but it also feels extra bad when it is nerfed and not nearly as good. Like, that could only ever be worth it if your tier set was awesome and really strong. So having your tier set be cringe and also bad is, well, I mean, you probably don't need to be explained to you why when something is defined as cringe and also bad that would be not good. But yeah, so not great. Moving on, I don't know how Warlocks work. I'll just ask one of them. See, this is Wowhead speak. I'm not reading this garbage. When look at this. You would have to fucking love Warlock to even start reading this. All right, Tishi said it's all good. All right, one second. Tishi, tell me what this is about. All right, what does all this say?
So they made the Affliction one have AoE clause because before it was only single target.
Okay.
Because it was a decent tier before.
Yeah.
They made the demo one. You know how the Unholy Magus has a volley?
Yes.
That one does that now as well.
Okay, so now you'll... By the way, the Unholy Magus one is fucking broken. Does this like it's going to do a lot?
I don't think so. Maybe. It'll certainly be better because before it was doing like 2% of your damage.
Okay. And then what about Destro?
They made it so the single target talent now works on AoE as well. It like splashes damage whenever it hits mobs for 25%.
All right, so overall good. I'll get your rating later, but do you think they're coming out of any tier they're currently in?
I mean, if you read the other demo changes, no.
Okay, sounds good. All right, good luck. See you later. Good luck in raid.
Yep.
See ya. Okay, so on to Warrior. So apparently Blizzard put out their post, so after we're done looking at these tier changes, we will just, because we're on the last one here, Prot Warrior 2 and 4 piece. So this is the Shield Slam one. This one was, I don't know if you all saw this, I think this one was having some kind of really weird interaction with versatility. I don't know what it was, but I saw someone using this and it wasn't doing a lot of damage, and then I saw that person gain like a couple thousand verse, and it ended up being their #1 damage by far. And I don't know, it seemed like some kind of buggy thing. Maybe it was like small sample size. Warrior Protection 10.2. Spinning Rage has a chance to cause Shield Slam to consume your bleeds. And then it will instantly dealing 40% of the remaining damage? Okay. Oh, but one thing is really, really nice here. That's weird. It's weird they did that, because now you're consuming your bleeds, but they're not doing anything. I guess you're putting them right back up, so it's still a damage increase. But very important and good change is now it is no longer a debuff on the mob doing less damage to you, but it is now a buff to yourself and is a 10% DR. So interesting that they made both the Prot Warrior 2-piece and Prot Paladin 2-piece today. They changed both of them to end up being roughly almost permanent 10% DRs, which is a really, really powerful 2-piece. Okay, and then we have the 4-piece. Let's see what they did here. For each bleed consumed effect consumed from a target, your damage taken is reduced by an additional 2%. Okay, so how many bleeds do you have? Deep Wounds, Rend. So that's 4%. Do you have a third bleed? 3, Thunderous Roar. 3 if Thunderous Roar is up, and this reduces the CDR of it. Okay, so 6%, I guess. And the cooldown of Thunderclap is reset, and the cooldown of Thunderous Roar. And hopefully they fix the weird bugs with, like, Thunderclap, like, going on cooldown and using it and some weird shit like that. But, okay. All right, we now have the Blizzard post. Here we go, 3 minutes ago. All right, Death Knight. We already read that. Frost, same thing. Fix an issue with Chill Streak not decrementing a bounce when a bounce up. Okay, cool. Demon Hunter. All right, so this is really interesting. This is the first look we're getting at whatever they called a Demon Hunter rework. The dev for this said publicly did not really consider it as much of a rework, like, because he basically just wanted to temper expectations because Rogue got like an unbelievable amount of changes, and I guess they were saying there weren't going to be that many for Demon Hunter. This looks pretty sizable. There's also really 1 DPS spec instead of 3, so I mean there would be a third of the amount of stuff anyway, but put your cam in the bottom right. Sure. Let's look at this. Demon Hunter talent updates are starting to roll in as they become ready, starting with Havoc tree changes in this week's PTR build. In some cases, talents may be missing or marked as a work in progress, but there are enough changes to the Havoc tree and individual talents that we'd like to get in players' hands to begin gathering feedback. Vengeance and class trees changes are soon to come. So this week, specifically Havoc, Vengeance, and the class tree will be in a separate week. Spectral Sight is now on a 1.5 minute cooldown. And it was 1 in 30 with rank 2 talented, so I imagine they're just removing the talent for that. Fodder for the Flame Demon now revealed by Spectral Sight. Fodder the Flame Demon now takes fatal damage from Eye Beam and Fell Dev in addition to Throw Glaive, so you won't necessarily have to Throw Glaive it, depending on where you are in your rotation. Fodder the Flame buff is now granted immediately upon killing the demon. It was upon collecting the soul. Souls have always been really cringe. That's nice. Meta cooldown default reduced to 3 minutes was 4. So I wonder what they're going to do with that talent then. I wonder if they're just going to... Okay. So Darkness now has a 15% chance to avoid all damage from an attack. Chance to avoid damage increased by 100% when not in a raid. Wow. That's actually really fucking good, right? For dungeons? That makes Darkness way better in dungeons. 30% is huge. That is it's small area. That's okay. So Darkness is a really interesting cooldown. I would say it's pretty much irrelevant for most mechanics that deal like 100% of your health. But any mechanic that has ticking damage involved and multiple like big bursts of damage, when you like give enough sample size, basically if you Darkness is bad when you take 90% of your health in one hit, but Darkness is like as good as the number says, 15 or 30% if you're out of a raid, when that 90% damage you're taking is spread out amongst like, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ticks or big damage events or whatever. That's when darkness just basically becomes as good as you would imagine it to be. So this is a nerf in raid, right? Hasn't darkness been 20%? So I think they nerfed darkness in raid, which sounds like that's not weird if that happened, because they have been nerfing all raid damage stuff, which I'm not gonna lie, as long as they do all of them, I'm okay with that. I actually do think that raid damage reduction spells are too strong, just in the whole game. It makes classes who don't have them feel like shit, and you end up bringing them just because they have them. If they basically made it so if you had a second warrior in your raid, it was like, oh, okay, that's nice, we'll have a second rally, rather than we need 2 warriors because we need rally on this fight. That's obviously just a much better place to be for any class with raid buffs. Just the entire game is very good. Brings the weaker raid damage reduction spells also more in line with the ones that were currently way better. So yeah, darkness is nerfed by about 25% in Mythic Plus, and it was buffed or nerfed by 25% in raid, buffed by 50% in dungeons. So like, I'm trying to think of a couple of dungeon scenarios. No Cut Offensive, when you're taking damage from the lightning boss in that intermission phase, darkness would be literally the best raid cooldown in the game for that if you're able to stack. If you were dispelling on Thundercock in Season 1 in Ruby Life Pools, and you were able to be in a darkness when you're doing those dispels, it would be literally better than a barrier. It'd be better than every cooldown. If you have a million bursting stacks, especially, can you darkness bursting ticks? I imagine you can. If that's the case, it would be excellent for bursting. Wow, that is an awesome change. I'm so glad that both parts of this, huge ups on them for that. First of the Illidari has been removed. What is that? What is First of the Illidari? It's a talent no one takes. It's the 1 minute meta reduction. Oh, was that the one that was the choice node with it was with like demonic, right? And so you just never took it? Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I still felt like that choice node did kind of make sense. It was just never powerful enough to actually make you want to take it. So now it looks like meta will just be 3 minutes. But isn't there a case where they wanted you to kind of take this, right? They want you to like actually, they clearly part of this tree, they wanted you to take some of these choice node or talents to like actively extend your meta and stuff. So maybe what they're going into today is more on the lines of really wanting to make you do that. Okay, and then I'm really interested to see what they do with momentum, because momentum is such a huge problem right now. Demonic Appetite is now baseline for Havoc and causes souls to generate 20. Fury was 30. So Demonic Appetite, I'm assuming you guys were taking this. So now you guys were taking this, so that's just, you just get this for free now in a slightly nerfed version. I'm sure anyone would take the talent point over the slight nerf to this. Fell Eruption is now baseline. God bless. Demon Hunters have been one of the few classes still. It was Moonkins initially with Solar Beam. It was Shadow Priests in beta with Silence and Dispersion. It was, there's a couple other weird ones where there's still some, like Enhanced Shaman has Ghost Wolf in their spec tree, and it's super annoying. Havoc for a long time has now had Desperate Instincts, Netherwalk, and Fell Eruption. 3 things you would like to take, 3 things you will never take because they're not actual choices against damage. So now Fell Eruption is baseline. Awesome. Love using that button. Glaive Tempest cooldown is increased to 25 seconds, was 20. Damage increased by 15, and damage reduced beyond 8 targets was 5. So they made Glaive Tempest a little bit higher cooldown, but they made it significantly stronger and also bigger AoE. I'm not sure if people took that, but that's a good change. Looks like. I will speak to a Demon Hunter later today, hopefully Evade, to give me his thoughts on all these things. Fel Barrage has been redesigned. No longer channeled, drains 50 Fury per tick, lasts until Fury is depleted, damage reduced beyond 5. So they turned Fel Barrage into Bone Storm. That's really interesting. That sounds really interesting. It's Breath of Syndragosa? Oh yeah, I guess you're right. It is Breath. It's more like Breath, yeah. Breath of Fel Barrage. I was saying it's more like Bone Storm because you like spend the runic power on it and then it happens, but that's just over a duration. It's not extendable. Yeah, it is more like Breath, but it's just all the way around you. So the design of this game is so obviously, guys, you know, Breath is like one of the most controversial abilities in this game. You love it or hate it. There's no in between. People only play Frosty K because Breath exists because it's so fun, and then people do not like Frosty K even though it's their main because they feel like they have to play Breath. Breath is like one of those abilities where when you're doing it right and when it works, it's just euphoric. It's like the most fun in the game, but there's so many ways where it sucks. Playing with pug tanks who don't know how to chain properly, dying or messing up your breath and feeling like an absolute fucking idiot for 2 minutes. They've had a way to deal with that. So we'll wait and see. I always think that I like breath type ideas because when done right, they can be just an awesome, awesome part of your class. Not every class will handle it differently. Obviously, Frost Decay generates runic power by pressing Howling Blast in this and Obliterate. This class will maybe have other uses for that. Who knows how much that draining is? Who knows how much damage it is? I would say that probably the best way for Fel Barrage to feel, from my experience playing Havoc, would be it being up for like 15-ish seconds and it doing a ton of damage rather than it being something you feel like you have to maintain for more than a few minutes. So something that you press, which normally was on a cooldown and just did damage initially, you should be able to like maximize your fury gain. A good player will get 15 seconds, a bad player will get 10 to 11, and you know, there's still skill expression in it, but it's not something where you feel like you're keeping up a minutes long maintenance buff. That's just top of my head. I hope it's more like that than the other. I don't think Demon Hunters want to. They have their own issues with maintenance buffs, which it looks like we're about to get into in a second. So Initiative's effect is no longer triggered or denied. Initiative is the Vengeful Retreat crit thing. Yeah, the Night Fae talent from last expansion. Momentum now increases damage by 6%, was 8%. Last 6 seconds was 5, and duration stacks to a max of 30 seconds was 10. Okay, so I'm gonna have to hear some takes on this. I'm assuming there's more to know here. Like, there has to be more to this, and it has to be in a different spot of the tree. We'll hold on momentum until we see the full picture, but you guys know how I feel about momentum. I think momentum, at least currently, I loved old momentum because it was a huge damage increase and it was really low uptime, meaning that you had pooling phases and you had burst phases. That was super fun. What they turned it into is this extremely small damage increase that you feel obligated to keep up all the time. And no one's really a fan of it. Like, the good players aren't a fan of it because there's no longer any skill involved in it. It's just like you're fell rushing around for no reason. And the people who hated it before because you had to fell rush for damage are now still fell rushing, but they're getting nothing out of it. So basically no one likes this. It's just in the middle of these two things. So even if there's a new talent, a new choice node to take against it, I still don't know why it's here if it's this very bad version of what it used to be, in my opinion, design-wise. Okay, new talent Inertia. When empowered by Unbound Chaos, Fell Rush increases damage by 20% for 5 seconds. So you can now, instead of taking Momentum, you can take like Unbound Chaos and AoE Fell Rush ability. Whenever you use that Fell Rush to do big dam, you will now also get a 20% damage increase for 5 seconds. Interesting. Again, we'll just look at the whole tree. It depends on where it is in the tree too. Fell Rush now enforces a global cooldown of 0.5, was 0.25, and Fellblade now enforces a global... Oh, Fellblade CDR, or a global cooldown of Fellblade being 0.5 is actually really good. I don't think you'll feel the Fell Rush one. I wonder why they did this though. But this is great. This one's really good. This is going to feel great. Fellblade has always felt too slow in that way. I mean, if you're playing Momentum, you're going to feel this for sure, yeah. So work in progress.
Ah, yes.
New talent, Deflecting Dance. Blade Dance deflects incoming attacks, absorbing damage up to 15% of your max health. Okay, now that's really, I mean, that's if that's on your spec tree, there's no way, right? Unless it's in a spot where you'd never take it anywhere else. Mini DR? Yeah, but like, okay, so you used to use Blade Dance to parry boss mechanics and shit. So maybe you have to take it. You have to take it for pathing. Okay, so you get it for free. My only thought is the absorbing up to 15% of your max health is like a little low, but I guess I'm thinking about this only when you're soaking giant tank hits. This actually could just be good for Demon Hunter defensiveness in general. Because, you know, let's just say you have Blade... You're not going to, like, Blade Dance exactly at a certain time. You're not going to hold it, but, like, if it just lines up for mass damage events, you'll definitely feel that, right? Like, if you just consider it like a 15k absorb, that could actually end up being a decent amount of healing over the course of the fight. If you guys haven't been playing DH or paying attention... They used to be unkillable gods in the last two expansion. They had a crazy amount of leech and self-healing, and they were naturally really, really tanky. They nerfed their self-healing a lot. Demon Hunters are much more killable this expansion than they have been in the past. So this actually isn't super broken and probably something that will feel pretty good. And yeah, so like most of the time you're not going to hold Blade Dance, but like if it's an ability that you're scared about one-shotting you and you don't have blur up, I mean, you're like 100% going to hold it for a few seconds to do that, right? I wonder if this has an ICD. Probably not, because... An ICD of being fully absorbed, maybe? No. Okay. Fellfire Heart talent has been removed. I don't know what that is. Fell Rush damage increased by 60% flat. Okay, that's actually really good. Okay, and then they did, oh, this is the good shit. Immo Aura has 1 additional charge and a 30% chance to refund a charge when activated. You can have multiple Immo Auras active at one time. Oh, that's fat. So that's to more support the like choice node for like the Unbound Chaos synergy. Okay, that's gonna feel good to play, I think. Bro, are we leveling Horseboy? We'll take a look at the spec tree in a second. Okay, Unbound Chaos was a 1-point talent, now was 2, and increases your damage. Okay, so a lot of other classes were getting 1-point talents instead of 2, but they were getting the full value of the old 2-point talent, so it felt like they were just getting an extra spec tree point. It looks like the Havoc designer is like, nah, you're not getting all that. We'll give you not having to spend 2 points in your tree all over the place to give you more choice, but that 1 point you're spending isn't going to be worth 2. It's going to be worth like 1.25 or 1.5. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, because at the very least, like, look at these 4 things. If you were taking these 4 talents before, or 6 talents, you now have 6 extra spec tree points. You're going to keep all the same stuff. They're going to be a little worse than before, but you're getting 6 spec tree points. That is like fucking huge. So, like, think about what more you could get with 6 points. So, it looks. I'm not going to read all these, but it just looks like, generally speaking, if the old 2-point gave you 40, they're going to make it 1, but give you 30. Meet you halfway for all of these things, it looks like. Except there's one at the bottom that's different. Isolated Prey has been adjusted. No longer causes Fell Rush to grant Fury. Now causes Immolation Aura to deal 30% increased damage. I don't know what Isolated Prey is. Chaos Nova, Eye-Beam, and Fell Rush gain extra benefits when striking one target. Okay, so instead of Fell Rush granting Fury, it's now going to make Immo Aura do more damage than a single target. Okay. Okay, they nerfed the Vengeance tier set as well. Okay, so that's a lot of Havoc. We'll go back to Havoc later. We'll get a Havoc Super Genius on the line. Let me message Evade, actually. Guardian Druid's Rage Generation scales exceptionally well with large numbers of targets, often resulting in resource saturation. This adjustment to Blood Frenzy is meant to tone down rage income in scenarios with large target counts. Okay, I'm okay with this, but can we get a buff to rage in single target? So one thing I've noticed when playing Guardian is it feels euphoric as fuck when you have a million mobs on you. In fact, you'd like to fight every boss with mobs on you just so you're getting the value of other things. Guardian would definitely benefit from, sure, nerf the rage in AoE, but buff it in single target in some way. I don't really know how. Let's see. Dreamthorns absorb 25% damage. We saw that already. Resto, they nerf Cenarius Guidance. No longer spawns an additional Grove Guardian at the beginning, and it now reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds when it fades. When a Grove Guardian fades, and it was 4. So they buffed the CDR of Guidance and... Oh, no, they didn't. It's the same now. Okay, so because there's one less Grove Guardian, they had to buff the CDR, so the CDR remained the same, but removed the Grove Guardian. Yeah. Evoker Augmentation. All right, let's check this out. Augmentation's contributions to the party, particularly in Mythic Plus, are too impactful and are making it difficult for other comps to shine. As a result, we're doing some targeted nerfs to their group utility by reducing the value of Aspect's Favor, Molten Blood, and Ebon Might. Before we look at these changes, so people are like really against augmentation, but I think they're more just upset that the class is like super insane and like too unbringable. Like, for example, would people hate augmentation if like it was super mid, it was okay, but no one like really brought it? Maybe they would still hate it because people hate a lot of things, but it wouldn't be as in the front of their mind as if it's just in the main reason they hate them is they're in the group and they're not, right? And admittedly it's been very cringe for Aug to just be the only thing that's good enough to be in a dungeon for a while. But if that wasn't the case, so people are not upset with augmentation existing, they're upset with augmentation's tuning. Like, if you're going to bring that much utility to a dungeon, you can't be doing the same damage as the best classes in the game. It needs to be a loss, 5-10% loss, because it would still be competitive in that slot if it was at a 5-10% damage loss from another class. But it wasn't. So let's see if this gets closer to that. So Aspect's Favor increases max health by 2 and 4%. Is that when you press Obsidian Scales? Is this just amplified or whatever it is? Or is this just like passive? That's just like passive health. Because it's both, right? Isn't this the passive one, but then Obsidian Scales just buffs it? Well, that's just the base passive game. Okay, yeah, I actually don't know how Aug works. I'm assuming, what I assumed is Aspect's Favor is baseline, and then using Obsidian Scales buffs this number, similar to how Aura Mastery is at 3% naturally, Devotion Aura, but then Aura Mastery buffs it to 15, so it's only a 12% increase. Oh, what I'm saying is correct. Okay, never mind that. So they are nerfing the passive health increase and also nerfing the on-use of Obsidian Scales. Okay, yeah, then that's perfect. That is absolutely one of the way too strong things about them. Molten Blood's absorption reduced by 50%. What the fuck is that? What is this? It's when you apply Scales to a tank. Scales from Rescue. When you apply Scales, it applies an absorb. Okay, this is also good. So there was some potential cringe uses of this. There's a lot of people saying like, oh, like Augs are going to replace a healer. That's not usually or really how it's ever come to be, where Aug has realistically been able to replace a healer. But one thing that they could really help do is spot heal. So like if you had a couple of Evokers in a raid and they were putting the scales not on the tank, but on a target that's low, it was actually a very, very powerful absorb. Imagine you could do this in Mythic Plus as well. And it was like very, very, very good. So that number being nerfed, I think, is good, just so there isn't some degeneracy like that. Because clearly that ability is not meant to be used on targets that aren't tanks as an absorb. It is meant to be on the tank, usually, I assume. And then now, Ebon Might, in general, grants 8% of the Evoker's primary stat was 10. Okay? That's pretty big. That's not even just in dungeons. That's just straight up a... Can someone math that? Because, like, there's a lot of other things involved, right? Because there's, like, presciences, there's the verse, there's breath. It's a 20... Yeah, I mean, I know, like, okay, so 10 to 8 is 20%, but there's a lot of other scaling things with it as well. If it's a 20% damage nerf, that is fucking massive. Like, total. We'll test it on PTR. Unfortunately, it's going to be really hard to test on PTR right now, because hopefully this is not written on here, but they fixed this. So currently, Evoker's log hooks on PTR are borked, so you can't actually see how good they're doing on live versus PTR. On live, log hooks not borked. On PTR, they're totally fucked. So you're going to have to do some weird damage calculation. Like, I guess what you could do is you could either sim it if sims work. I doubt sims work because the log hooks are broken. You could, like, take a 5-man party that's all getting buffed. You could hit the dummy 10 times with an Aug, like old Aug and then new Aug, and then you could see the total party increase. But then that's, like, pretty low sample size, but you could get, like, an idea. Or you could just do math, you know. Let's see. Normally, 7k main stats around 700, getting 560. Yeah. Okay, and then preservation looks like the Spirit Bloom healing increase has been reverted, and Rewind nerfed. Very interesting. Very interesting. So I never thought of this, but they consider Rewind like Aura Mastery, like Barrier, like Rallying Cry. They consider this a raid cooldown. I consider this a healing button. I consider this like a really, really good tranquility, something like that. I would not say... I mean, Rewind can be, at times, the same power level of those things, but I've never classified it in the same lines as those things. But with Blizzard nerfing it, at the same time they're nerfing Rallying Cry, at the same time they're nerfing Darkness and Raid, they clearly think that Rewind, not as just on that level, it clearly is, but they also classify it as not a healing button, but as they intended it to be the power word barrier of preservation, and I never really thought of it that way personally.
Isn't it like Revival?
Yeah, it's like Revival, but like way fucking better. It's like Revival, but like insane as fuck. Except it does have some downsides. Rewind doesn't work on certain things. For example, on Sarkareth, am I correct? I know it didn't work initially, but does it still not work on the clearing the debuffs in P1? It only works on like the damage from the actual breath and everything else. It doesn't actually do that. Like when you're splashing damage on each other, like for whatever reason, Rewind just never actually counted that damage. So it made Rewind not good for that specific mechanic. It's classified as friendly fire. Yeah. Okay, Arcane. We looked at the Arcane and fire changes already. It looks like they do have a dev note though. We're aware of an issue following crit damage bonuses not attributing the correct amount of damage to the Ignite when the ability critically strikes, overflowing energy, wildfire, and steering rage. This issue will be resolved next week's build. Okay, bunch of Windwalker changes. We'll look at this. Jade Serpent statues Soothing Mist healing increased by 40%. Don't know why Jade Serpent statues on the class tree where it is. Mistweaver, Chi Harmony now stores 20% of all healing, was 15. Okay, so they're buffing the two-piece because they previously nerfed the like multiplicative interaction of it. Healing Elixir has been redesigned as a passive effect. You consume Healing Elixir when you drop below 35% and are not in a loss of control effect. Instantly healing you 50% of your health. You generate 1 Healing Elixir every 30 seconds. Wait, isn't that what Healing Elixir always was? Bro, I haven't played Healing Elixir in years, but it wasn't passive. It was an on-use. Bro, I'm not crazy, right? Healing Elixir for a long time wasn't active, but if you fell below 35%, it would use the charge anyway. Isn't that how it used to be? Back in the day? Bro, I fucking guarantee you that's how it used to be. I have to be crazy. It was? Okay, it wasn't... Okay, yeah, so when I played... Yeah, okay. So I'm not crazy. Legion WoD, yeah. Was it BFA or Shadowlands when it changed? It was like that as soon as BFA. Okay, that's why I remember it. That was like the last full expansion I played. Or rated into the World First Race in. So now they just made it go back to that. Why wouldn't you just make it do both again, right? You can use it and also it'll automatically use. I don't know. Actually, I'm pretty sure you'd rather just have it be in control of it, right? Do you even take this? I don't know. This is fucking Mistweaver stuff. Who cares? All right, Windwalker. Okay. Oh, they're trying to relieve action bar pressure, trying to reduce keybinds. Okay, that's fine. I mean, all the Mistweavers in my chat are obviously super geniuses. Do you guys think that that is something that needs to happen with Mistweaver? Need to remove some buttons? Do you guys agree with it? No, no, no. Too many buttons. Yes, no. Kinda, yes. Nah, fam. No. 100% yes. This is great. You guys agree. This is good. Windwalkers, we're continuing to monitor the set bonus and the feedback around it. As the auto attack trigger was not accomplishing the intended goal of providing Windfoot only during lulls and quiet points in the rotation, we've updated the whoa, back up. As the auto attack trigger was not accomplishing the intended goal, so you intended it to be on auto attack because you didn't want it to proc in Fist of Fury and Spinning Crane Kick? So the auto attack was intentionally done knowing that auto attacks are janky for Windwalkers, so it would have a higher chance of proccing outside of using those buttons? That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. We've updated the bonus to trigger off of all melee ability damage and normalized trigger frequency. Overall, good change, but I will certainly not forget learning the auto attack lesson last patch and then doing it again, and not only doing it, but attaching the 2-piece to another ability that doesn't let you auto attack while having the 2-piece be auto attack. That's just like negligence. I don't know. Okay, Amir Drasil, the Dream's Hope 2-set bonus. Blackout Kick is increased by 150, was 100, and the 4-set cooldown increased 2 seconds. It was already like that. Fix an issue that prevented Windfoot. Dude, feet, toes, they love this shit. From being correctly consumed when Spinning Crane Kick was used. Oh, fix an issue that caused Windfoot to be consumed when Dance of Chi-Ji empowers the Spinning Crane Kick. This set's going to be trash. Fix an issue that prevented Dance of Chi-Ji from granting Blackout reinforcement. Yeah, it actually felt really good that it did that. If this set has a 1.5 minute proc, 1.5 procs per minute, meaning that roughly every 45 seconds you will get one of these procs, this set is absolute fucking trash. Beyond trash. I mean, Windwalkers are just always turbo down bad. They need to rework that whole spec. Not whole spec, just a lot of the talents. It needs God. Holy Paladin, all healing. Bro, I swear there has been like 5 straight notes of Pally nerfs. Pallies are so down tremendous. Oh, they nerfed Aura Mastery too. They nerfed all raid cooldowns. Bro, I am here for this. I am so fucking here for this, man. Because like, if it's only one class getting their raid utility nerfed, then they're mad, but everyone's like raid-wide damage reduction or health increases, they're all getting nerfed, and I'm okay with that. Except for AMZ, which is good because that one was slightly not as good as the other one, so it'll bring that more in line. Okay, all healing reduced by 5. Hand of Divinity. Okay, healing words. Wog healing's a little better. Or okay, here's the important one. Aura Mastery now increases the effectiveness of Diva Aura to 12%, was 15. So Aura Mastery on use used to be a 12% reduction because it would go from 3 to 15, roughly 12%. And now it's going to go from 3 to 12, so it'll be 9. So Aura Mastery will be roughly a 9% damage increase, which is still good. Like, you'll still press that button, but it's something where it's really increasingly more unlikely that you won't bring a Paladin to make sure you have Aura Mastery for a specific mechanic, because there's other ways to get 10%. We already looked at this. They basically made the Prot 2 set give you a 10% DR, basically, instead of 10% armor. Big dub there. Rhett. Dev note, due to previous bugs with targeting issues on Wrathful Sanction, the ability was a bit undertuned. Following these bug fixes, we're returning the set bonus to better hit our tuning targets for the set bonus. So they're going to fix it, which will make the set way better. And then because of that, we're going to nerf it because we think it's too strong. Additionally, the amount of uptime the 4-set provides, it was overperforming in tandem with a few of the Ret talents. We appreciate everyone's feedback. Okay, so we'll get feedback. They nerfed it. Sounds good. Priest, powered life, mana cost increase. Powered life cooldown decreased. Powered life is now only usable on targets below 35%. And then I don't even know what this ability is. Don't tell me either. Okay, Disc. We've heard feedback that Shadow Covenant and the talent tree in general would be more flexible and interesting if Shadow Fiend were a more viable option. So Shadow Covenant now grants a higher damage increase with Shadow Fiend. We've also tied the duration with the duration of Shadow Fiend or Mindbender to make using Inescapable Torment more enjoyable. Finally, we've reduced the overall value of Shadow Covenant, particularly with Mindbender, and distributed some of the power independence to nudge Discipline a bit closer towards consistent damage instead of heavy burst windows. Okay, I think that's got to be the way it goes, because like Disc thrived years ago. Not too far away. Like, it's pretty recent. And also, they did this 4 years. They thrived because they were a burst healer, and burst healing was so OP because no one else had it. But now everyone burst heals. Like, you have other classes that even have really strong ramps too. But I mean,
This entire game is just like healers are so fucking strong that they just burst heal everything. So like disc has just become way less valuable because they used to be like an oasis in a desert, you know? When you were famished for raid healing, they could just solo heal anything, and that was super powerful. So now that healing plays a little bit differently, you can argue whether that's good or not. You would definitely want disc to have a better profile outside of their cooldowns, which seems to be their goal here. I can't tell you whether any of this Shadow Fiend, Mindbender, Shadow Covenant, I don't know what any of these words mean, but at least the last sentence makes a lot of sense. Ultimate Penitence, which is the thing that raises you in the air, now takes into account your primary target and will prioritize healing bolts if an ally is selected or damaging bolts if an enemy is selected. Okay, so it'll do damage and healing increased by 25%, and initial tick has been added to the starter channel. So they buffed Ultimate Penitence, which is what I very confidently, with no information at all, said was an overrated bad ability during the review of this with JB. And again, need to reiterate and be completely clear that I know absolutely nothing about it, but am confidently saying that it is bad. Embrace Shadow has been removed. Twilight Corruption remains its location. Shadow Covenant's thing. Okay, Shadow Covenant duration now matches the... Yeah, we already talked about that. Visuals have been improved. Penance damage and healing increased by 15%. Okay. Mindbender and Void Summoner. Man, you know what's crazy? Blizzard really wants you to penance specific targets. There's nothing more than whoever is making disc wants you to do than just like cast penance into another player to heal them specifically. But every player is just like, nah. Mindbender and Void Summoner have swapped locations in the talent tree. Void Summoner reduces the cooldown of Shadow Beam. Okay, fix an issue, healer stuff. With the flash heal and heal buffs, Trail of Light was overperforming, so we're reducing its value. We're also increasing the value of Pontifex. That's a word, since it was unpopular talent. Finally, we're making Echo of Light's period faster, so it's more responsive to damage. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to take their dev note for what it is. Okay, dude, a lot of changes this week. Holy moly. Rogue. Airborne Irritant has been moved to the class tree, was an outlaw, and has been adjusted. Blind is a 50% reduced cooldown, 40% reduced duration, and applies to all enemies near the target. Okay, so now AoE Blind, one of the only, if not the only... Rogues have always excelled in locking down one target, but they have fell flat in having like group-wide stops. And now Rogues, hopefully they can get this easily. There is a lot of damage in the class tree where they will have an AoE stop in dungeons, which is cool. So, like that. Mark for Death has been removed. Dude, people might hate this. I've played a decent amount of Rogue. I have never liked playing Mark for Death. It has always just seemed like a talent that other things were more fun than having this. Just my opinion. Okay, Assassination. Amir Drasil, 4%. We already read that. Has been increased by a lot. Caustic Spatter, damage increased. Dashing Scoundrel is now 1 point talent, was 2. And Indiscriminate Carnage was now 10 seconds, was 3 seconds. Scent of Blood now increases Agi by... Oh, wait. That's huge, right? Indiscriminate Carnage being 10 seconds? That's real big. That's going to feel way better. Okay. Scent of Blood. Oh, interesting. Scent of Blood is just buffed on lower target counts and caps out on a lower amount of targets, but ends up being a lower total maximum. Self shout out. That's a buff. Yeah, so it's 2 to 4% per target, and then it caps out at 20%. So you can have 5 targets ruptured for the maximum value. Before, it was 3% per target with 2 points, but you could actually put it on like way more targets, right? Like 8 targets and get slightly more value. But this is going, I mean, this is definitely a buff, right? They cap it at lower targets and give you more per. I would like that. Having 8 ruptures out is pretty wild. Outlaw, Grand Melee Roll the Bones buff has been adjusted. Now increases damage by 5%, and Blade Flurry deals 10% additional damage. What did this used to say? Oh, are they tuning the Roll the Bones thing so there aren't like 2 that are just way better than the other ones? I only know them by what they look like. I know Shark, I know Clock. What Grand Melee used to be was attack speed increased by 55% and Leech is increased by 25%. So they lost the Leech. Interesting. You have to Blade Flurry on a single target now? That's not true. No, that was the one before. Okay, what is it? People were going to abuse Dreadblades? Well, I don't know about all that. All I'm saying is... Okay, you guys, by the way, you don't have to worry about Blade Flurry and single target. So you guys who are like, oh man, we have to Blade Flurry at single target when we get this buff now. If you haven't played Outlaw on the PTR, you have Blade Flurry up all the time if you're playing properly. Because your Adrenaline Rush causes it to not reduce in time, as well as like a few other things, right? It's like Slice and Dice. I don't know. It has if you go hit a dummy, you will always have Blade Flurry. You can press it literally before the pull, right? Before it was attack speed plus Leech plus Blade Flurry damage increase current, and you had to use it on single target for 10.1.7, and now this. So it's just 5% damage amp and the Blade Flurry thing. It's a maintenance buff, though. Pushing AoE buttons on single target scenarios will feel bad. Yes, but I don't think you have to do that. I'm pretty sure it is up all the time. Like, you literally put it up before the pull, and like before you get back in combat,
and it's up permanently. If you had to put it up every 12 seconds and you had to keep pressing it, that would be horrible. Yes, that's currently not what happens. Okay, subtlety. Max, you can see the raid map now on Wowhead article. Yeah, I know what the raid looks like. Okay, here we go. We looked at the LA P-Wave thing, which maybe I'll read it differently here. When consuming P-Wave for 10 seconds afterwards, Lava Burst burns your target for extra damage. That's fine. And then for 10 seconds, each cast of Chain Lightning causes your next Lava Burst to hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock. Okay, so I did read this wrong earlier. I was picturing like P-Wave would happen, and then you would Chain Lightning, and then your one Lava Burst would just like fucking... Let's say you had 5 targets. Each of those 5 targets would shoot out 3 extra Lava Bursts, but that's not true. It is... That happens initially with P-Wave, and then you press Chain Lightning, and then you Lava Burst again, and it basically does it again, which is still really fun, and probably better. What I was imagining was fucking crazy. Let's see. Resto, with Riptide, Healing Surge, and Healing Wave doing a lot more healing, Ancestral Awakening's power was increased beyond its intended levels. Okay, Resto Shamans are down astronomical. They might be going down in the tier list. We'll update the tier list after we look at everything. Warlock Affliction, we already talked to Warlock about... Oh, they did a bunch of other changes. So we'll have to talk to THD about this later. But we just looked at the tier set bonuses, and he said that they basically just made all of the tier sets not cringe and AoE or single target. They all do both, which is a good change. But it looks like they also just buffed the fuck out of like every demo ability. So we'll look at that again with him. So we'll see if demo comes up from somehow it got worse. We'll have to look at that after. We'll update this later. Okay, Warrior Rallying Cry increases current and max health by 10%, was 15. Okay. Inspiring Presence has been removed. Well, we should probably just do an entire video on just the raid damage reductions, because I think that's pretty significant. Inspiring Presence has been removed. Oh wait, what is Inspiring Presence actually? Oh, it was another 5%. So it was 15 to 20. So Rally is half as good now. That is fucking huge. Huge, but in my opinion, Warriors hopefully don't get mad. They nerfed every raid damage. I think that's warranted. I think Rallying Cry is way too overpowered in raid. And just so you know, I am an active advocate for you guys to get more utility in all other aspects of the game, because Rallying Cry was kind of the only thing that made up for that. But I am a fan of all raid damage reductions being nerfed. I think they are definitely too powerful, except for AMZ specifically. Just because I don't want DKs to get mad, and also because they got nerfed already. They just got nerfed a couple years early. Not because of me either. It was someone else. Okay, arm slam damage. That's probably good because Warriors hate pressing slam. Actually, no. I have heard very high IQ Giga Chad Genius Warriors say that they like pressing slam. It just doesn't do enough damage. Like, rotationally, slam feels fine. It just feels bad because it sucks so bad. It being pressed rotationally, which I think they have to do with their current tier, or I don't remember exactly why. It doing more dam is good, even if it needs more. Oh, yeah, it's replacing Ignore Pain, which is like... Bro, if you're out here arguing... Like, yes, you pressing Ignore Pain in your rage spending windows was a damage increase because it was off the global. That was good for your power, and it also gave you defensive bonuses because, like, you were actually pressing a defensive button, right? But you have to admit that that design was doggy, right? Even if you dig deep down, you know you really didn't want to be doing that. You just only liked it because it was strong. Okay, let's see. You can now right-click a ping chat message to report spam. Oh, y'all are getting reported. Let's do some class rankings here. All right. Blood DK. All that happened to them was their 2-piece now triggers from runic power instead of bone shield, which means it's still going to trigger, I assume, probably the same amount. It gives you a little bit more control so you know where it's going to happen rather than bone shield kind of just happening all the time. And more importantly, while you are not tanking a boss, you can still interact with this 2-piece rather than relying on having your bone shield charges reduced. So this is a good change, but Blood DK is already in good changes. The question is, are Blood DKs feeling real good from just this one change? I say no, but I will do them the courtesy of moving them up the list a little bit, just at random. I don't think they're feeling real good, but I think they're feeling better. Frost DK, Amir Drasil, Dream Soap 4 set. Chance to trigger reduced to 30% was 40 and reduces the cooldown of Empowerment Weapon by 6 was 10, so nerf the fuck out of the 4-piece. It might have been super, super strong. And then they fixed an issue where Chill Streak was not bounced off the Death Knight. So Frost DK was already looking in good changes, but that is a massive nerf. I can't remember if a lot of this good changes stuff was because of like you need to kind of have the full picture in your head, right? This isn't as binary as, oh, one bad change, they go down a thing. One good change, they go up a thing.
Right, you're missing the context of the previous post having like... Actually, you know what? Let's just actually go to the previous post. I think, let's keep everything in perspective. We moved it up to good changes from because they were getting a legendary. Technically. The cringe version of this spec will use the legendary. Well, a lot of people like the spec. I think 2 and Frost is way less fun. So the question is, does this 50% 4-piece nerf move Frosty K into the category? Probably a little subjective, but I'm feeling like if anyone's tier gets nerfed by 50%, that's gotta drop you down a level. Maybe near the top of the other level. But you still get a legendary? Nah. Let's keep it real. We'll bring it down one. All right, Demon Hunters. Let's come back to Havoc. I'm going to need some input from someone who's gone on the PTR and tried this stuff first. Well, let's come back later. So Guardian Druid. They buffed the 2 set to be at 25% rather than 10, but this isn't an actual like we talked about this earlier. It's not necessarily a mitigation buff, but it's potentially more impactful. The absorb we assume is the same amount, except now when it's up, it just gets reduced faster and is actually, I would say, is considered coverage while it's still up. So I think this is a good change for sure. I don't know, but it's not like a huge power increase. Dorky's in the chat, right? Dorky, what do you think? Do they go up from getting absolutely fucked, or are they just feels bad now? Would you like to reconsider your opinion? Nah, it's bad. They nerf Blood Frenzy. You're right. They nerf Blood Frenzy without buffing single target rage. Wait, what is the target cap? It's probably 8, right? They do all the target caps at 8. Wait, they capped it at 5? I mean, your rage gen as a Guardian Druid when you're tanking 5 mobs is definitely good. But I don't know. I feel like it was really fun to have like unlimited rage with a bunch of mobs. But I guess maybe their take is that that was too powerful. I don't know. Maybe they stay here because I think this set bonus is definitely a little bit better. You won't feel this as much in raid, but you will in Mythic Plus. All right, we'll leave it and got absolutely fucked then still. And it's so sad because there hasn't been a lot of bad changes to bear, but that's just the reality of going from a super good tier set to a mid one. Resto, this is basically nothing. Don't need to talk about it at all. Augmentation, which was previously in Feelin' Real Good just because they're currently... I put them in Feelin' Real Good because the patch was announced and they weren't mentioned with how powerful they were. That was the only reason. Was Augmentation cannot possibly feel bad because their name was not put in those notes. So now they actually did get addressed for the first time. All right, now that they've received changes... They got roughly, people are saying, a 7% damage nerf, which will definitely affect Mythic Plus, I think, more than Raid. Raid has, like, some multiplicative weird shit going on. They nerfed the Absorb from this. I don't think that's going to affect too many people, but stops Degeneracy. They nerfed the health increase from Obsidian Scales and Passive. So, I mean, if you're going into the start of this patch and you're like, what changes are we going to get? They have only potentially nerfed you, so it might feel bad. Keep in mind, this is not how you feel. This is how augmentation evokers feel going into 10.2, which I argued, as a default, has to be in Feeling Real Good before today because of how strong they are. But if you're an augmentation evoker and you read these changes, are you still feeling real good? Or are you feeling pretty good? Are you feeling pretty good still? That's a little hit, but it's not good. I mean, if you're still in the main comp, then I guess you're feeling real good, right? People are arguing it's too much, it's not enough. Well, people don't actually know that, right? Like, there are like a few groups of people that like set the meta for everyone else, basically, and people won't actually know if it's still the best until they see whether those teams or that team uses it or not. It really is as simple as just people just kind of parroting what they see a couple people do. 7%'s a big number. It's a big nerf, but nerf utility a little bit, which is good. Nerf both of those things. I still feel like they're feeling real good. You gotta still be feeling real good. Because, like, is augmentation going to be, like, not viable? Absolutely not. But I guess this isn't a question of, like, are you viable or not viable? It's not binary. I'm gonna move it down to good changes, I think. They got nerfed a little bit. Yeah. Final answer. They're down a little bit. We'll see if they can... They're certainly not going to get buffed from here on out, so... Preservation. Rewind nerf and Spirit Bloom. Now, if Rewind was just nerfed alone... you might drop it down a spot. But because everyone's reductions got nerfed, if you want to consider this a reduction, I feel like that has to feel less bad, right? But it depends on how much you're relying on the Spirit Bloom healing as well. I'm going to assume Prez is probably just still an but could get some expert opinion on that. It's
probably fine. Actually, now that Preservation has been able to play with the new tier set, how do you like it? It's like the guaranteed procs. You're like able to get the AoE Living Flames easier. What's the feel there? 2-piece good, 4-piece not as good. Right now, Prez looking at 2-piece, so Spirit Loom big healing was going to be nice. Okay, if any class, by the way, the eye levels this patch are going up 13 eye levels more than usual. If you're still using an old tier piece, you're feeling for sure bad. That is like terminal. If you are using an old 2-piece with that big of an eye level discrepancy, that means your shit is fucked. So I would throw that down here if what you just said is true. And their solution to that was just to nerf Spirit Bloom, I guess. Yeah, I would move that down then. Okay, this is interesting. All 3 mage specs previously made it into the tier, I believe. Oh no, we had Arcane got absolutely fucked. It was it was Frost and Fire that made it in the tier. The reason why is because, number one, this could have been like an annoying maintenance buff. They made the 2 set less annoying. And then the 4-piece was doing 6 clear castings, which was not very often, instead of 3. They made it 3, and they buffed the fuck out of Arcane Missiles. This used to be 75% increased damage total, and now it's 150 to the main target and 100 to the other targets. I don't know if they hit the mark. The mark is this, and I don't know what the number is, but the mark is when you get this proc and Arcane Missiles is going to AoE, when you press it in AoE, you're feeling dopamine. You're like, I just fucking owned everything. Like you press Arcane Missiles, you immediately look away from your character and to the damage meter to watch it go up real fast. That, hopefully these are the numbers that because that sounds fucking awesome. So I think Arcane moves up. The question is, does Arcane move up from got absolutely fucked all the way to or just to feels bad? Why would they be feeling bad? Are they currently missing a lot from something else? I think it goes up to right? Because then you'd have to ask if from the very beginning Arcane's tier piece was good, would they have ever even gone down to feels bad in the first place? Hopeful says is good. All right, 2 so far the world record in any of these changes. A class has gone up 2 full rankings with 1 change. Let's go, Blizzard. All right, Fire Magus. Amir Drasil's 2-piece buffed. 4% was 3. So just a straight up 30% buff to the 2-piece. And 4-piece, now the buff you get from the per stack or whatever is actually increased by 150%. And they said they have some issue they're resolving next week. Fire to good changes because Ignite fix and tier buff. Let's go. Fire moving up 1. Currently, mages are up good. Currently, mages are up real good. All right. Mistweaver. So Mistweaver got moved down to good changes last week because they nerfed their unbelievably powerful tier. When their tier got released, it was a 30% HPS increase, which is huge. And then they nerfed the fuck out of them. Now, they changed Healing Elixir, which I saw like pretty mixed opinions on. Some people were happy in the reduction of buttons, but they were unhappy with not having the control. When I asked my chat, roughly 50-50. I assume really high-level players wish they had the control, and less high-level players, or maybe even high-level players too. This is my guess. I don't even know if you take this. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, what they're also doing is they're buffing She Harmony to be 20% of all healing, and it was 15. This is a compensation buff from how much they nerfed it because of the way it interacted with it last week. And then they increased Unison's range, which I've heard is not nothing. That's actually pretty good. So the question is, does Mistweaver, all things involved, if you combine everything that's happened since the patch has come out, are you feeling real good? Or do you feel like you're doing just pretty good? I'm not feeling the hype from Mistweavers like they feel real confident like they did when these tier pieces come out. So I don't know if they can go up the level yet. Also, the Jade statue buff up top. Do you guys actually use Jade Serpent statue? I'm sure you do, but just I guess ever since they implemented this awful capstone idea, I've just like disregarded all 3 of these buttons. I think they're all trash. The tank one has always been like fine in a pinch, but you use it in raids, okay. All right, we're gonna keep Mistweaver in good changes. I think it's very top of good changes. All right, Windwalker. They have changed the wording of toes to feet. It is now Windfoot. Okay, so it's accurately, let's rename that. They buffed the 2-piece to be a bigger proc. This was already a thing, the 4-piece change. They made Dance of Chi-Ji no longer work, which felt really bad. Or it felt good that Dance of Chi-Ji worked, and now it's going to feel bad that it's gone. And I don't know if this is still the case, but your Blackout Kick doing 150% more is not applied to multiple talents. So I'll read a few to you. Blackout Kick deals 10% increased damage and strikes 2 additional targets. That does not work. Teachings of the Monastery, which you can stack something up to 3, allows you to shoot 4 Blackout Kicks at once. The tier does not work with that. It only does the first one. It does not do Do all of that. What is saying, why is he not listening? It does work. Chi-Ji works now. Oh, am I missing something? So before, what happened is when you consumed Windfoot or you consumed Dance of Chi-Ji, you got the Blackout Reinforcement, whatever it's called. Oh, fix an issue that prevented Dance of Chi-Ji from granting it. Oh, okay, so it is intended. Okay, I got that totally wrong. All right, back that up. Back that up. So Dance of Chi-Ji will get it, and it looks like they've changed the proc per minute for Windfoot to be 1.5 minutes. So roughly every 45 seconds, you'll get a natty proc, not from Dance of Chi-Ji. Max, Shadow Boxing Treads works, Touch the Magi doesn't. All right, another update. Touch the Magi, Teachings of Monastery, Touch the Magi. In my defense, they're the same acronym. Teachings of the Monastery does not work, but the other one does, so it does AoE. And most importantly, for the second tier in a row now, after making the mistake of having the worst melee attack class in the game have a tier bonus based on auto attacks, they have now made it to be proccing off everything, although it is very infrequent. But that's fine because I'm assuming you'll play Dance of Chi-Ji with this. And Dance of Chi-Ji procs enough on its own. And actually, I did have a worry. If it procs too much and you play Dance of Chi-Ji on single target, it will be like turbo fucking annoying to play. Like, you're just going to be spinning way more than you want in single target. Right now, Dance of Chi-Ji is just enough. Every 45 seconds, spinning one more time is not enough to make it awful, right? Where you're doing it too much. So it should be fine. Still, overall, I think a pretty unimpressive tier set. I think Windwalker needs so many other changes. I would just leave it in feet. But if anyone wants to argue to me that they actually are a lot more optimistic about it and they want it to go up, I still think Windwalker is just down in the dumps with the tier set, and just the overall class needs God. So we'll leave it in feet. I don't think it goes down more. Sent Back to Hell no longer makes sense because it's not demo. It's just going to call needs God. Sent Back to Feet. Actually, Sent Back to Feet kind of makes sense because they named it something else. They took it away from toes and they went right back to feet. Paladin Holy. So Holy feels bad because they just keep getting nerfed over and over and over again. And I think their tier wasn't that great. And now they got nerfed again. But I just don't know if it's enough to go into the fucked thing. Like, for example, can you Holy Paladins feel like you got absolutely fucked if you're still brought to every raid and dungeon? You know? Assuming that's the case. I'm not saying that's the case, but like, they are absolutely fucked. Stays the same. They always say yes even when broken. It's doomed. All right, that's enough dooming. This is not how... We are not asking for the opinions of all of you Holy Paladin haters because you don't get invited to groups because they exist. We're asking the Holy Paladins how they feel. That's the whole point of this. And they think they're getting absolutely fucked. Let's put them down there, baby. Holy Paladins on the move. And people are going to get extra mad when they're still good anyway. Prop Paladin, this has got to be good. So Prop Paladin was in Feels Bad, and they got their 2-piece changed from armor to DR. So now instead of 10% armor, you have 10% damage reduction. That is a really good change. However, I would still argue that Prop Paladin still feels bad because Consecrate gameplay fucking sucks, and they're like doubling down on it with the tier. But it doesn't actually change your gameplay. Because of your normal class mechanics, you have to sit and Consecrate anyway. So the tier isn't what's actually making you play differently. It's just doubling down on how you're already playing. It's more of like you're just mad about it thing. I don't know. That 2-piece change is really fucking good. They gave the same one to Prot Warrior, but I feel like that's gotta move you up. They made the Empowered Consecration 5 stacks instead of 10, and they made the 20% damage 40% damage on the 4 set, so they buffed it by 4 times. All right, that's gotta go to at least to eh. Gotta at least go to eh. All right, Ret, super hard to tell. I'm going to abstain on moving Ret anywhere this week. They were on good changes right away, but they had a bunch of weird bugs with this tier, and because of those bugs in a positive way, they had to nerf the tier, and they said it was overperforming. No one's had a chance to play with it until this weekend for raid and dungeon testing. So I'm just going to abstain. We will come back to this at a later date with more information from Ret Paladin. Because like they did nerf it, but it was also doing way more before because of this, so it's too ambiguous. Rets are just mad that we still suck at single target. Yeah, it seems like Rets are just one of those classes that has a lot of buttons they can select to play an AoE build, which feels good. But then those classes almost all universally cannot do AoE and single target at the same time. And just quite simply, the best classes in the game in any patch are just the classes that don't have to do that. They're the classes that do them both at the same time. So I don't really know how you solve that, because really the only way to make your class good in that way is to reduce the choice in your tree and just basically have the same build be good for Mythic Plus and AoE, or Mythic Plus and single target, with like 1 or 2 changes. but then it's like boring. So I don't know. I don't know how the fuck Blizzard deals with that. That's like an optimization nightmare. Okay, Priest. We went over all this earlier, the power word life stuff. I don't know what this button does. I know it's like on their class tree, right? Yeah, I don't even know if people use that though, but they made a bunch of changes to that. I don't know what it does. Some Shadow Covenant-y kind of stuff. They buffed Ultimate Penitence, bunch of healer stuff. They wanted to move a lot of the burst healing into consistent healing. You have to keep in mind, they're in the feeling real good category already mainly because of the buff to Atonement in dungeons. That was like a huge, honestly, I'm surprised that wasn't done like a long fucking time ago. But it seems like these changes are just generally good, unless someone has another take. What are priests molding? Someone give me the lay of the land. Unchanged? You might have to make a new tier just for disc. Oh, you think it goes up? So much of disc's problem aren't even disc. Like, disc can still do what it's done for years. It's just that everyone else can now too. What disc was able to do for a long time outside of Ashen Hollow Holy Paladin was they could solo heal the raid pretty consistently, and that's kind of how raid damage happened, and no one else could. So they just feasted. But now everyone heals everything all the time. So they just don't do anything special, and they have bad spot healing, or they had bad spot healing. Do we really make their own category? I would have to hear a very strong take from a disc to do that, I think. I need to hear from a disc priest. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. All right, fuck it. If anything, it'll just make people mad. Let's make it white for their class color. Found God. To Holy Priest. So someone give me a vibe here. It's healer stuff. Holy goes worse. It's down to feels bad. Feels bad changes. All of them feel bad. Is it feel bad like design wise, or are you just like we're less strong so that like here's what they said. With the flash heal and heal buffs, Trail of Light was overperforming. We're also increasing the value of a talent you don't normally take, and we're making Echo of Light's period faster so it's more responsive. So you just all of this just means that you're just saying you just don't agree with this. Big cringe, don't like. It's about a 7 to 8% nerf. Yeah, but is it a numbers nerf or like? I guess numbers nerf matters, but definitely way more concerned with the playstyle. So right now it's bottom of You guys can overrule. Do you think it goes down into feels bad? I mean, a 7% nerf is not going to make you feel good. That's a big number. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's a big old number. Now let's get down to rogue. So all of the rogue classes were put in feeling real good because they got reworked. And that's good. Usually means really good things. Sub hasn't been performing super well. Outlaw was overperforming just numbers-wise. Really important that you guys do not focus on the week-to-week numbers of a class that was reworked that much. You should more focus on the design, direction, and the playstyle. Outlaw apparently is like the best playstyle it's been in a long time. Assassination has some issues. I don't know if they addressed it yet. I know they moved stuff around on the tree. Maybe that helps, but I know there was some weird stuff with like whether to pull or not to pull, and like some weird interactions between the 4-piece and the one passive thing they added. So Outlaw's definitely in Found God, it sounds like. I don't even know if they buffed this here, but like Grand Melee, but like I think this was just undershooting how insane new Outlaw is. I've never heard James this happy in my whole life, and some minor change here to the Roll the Bones buff and whatever is not enough to take it out of there. Oh, Dreadblades being removed is having some Civil War issues. Ah, I see. Maybe we'll hold off then. If there's a Civil War happening, certainly being reworked can't be taken out of feeling real good. That's crazy. Yeah, we'll wait until that figures out. Subtlety. Stiletto, Staccato, and Stunning Secret have been removed. Gormaw's Bite, cooldown reduced to 45 was 1 minute, and Secret Technique by 12%. Actually, how have you guys liked the sub changes in general? How I haven't tried sub. I played Assassination and Outlaw, and it was really fun. You're saying sub feels bad. Sub doggo bad. So you're saying that sub changes are like the class is less fun to play than it was previously? People who say it's bad never played sub on PTR. Fuck, I need to ask James. 1 second. James, I think, is currently raiding, and he only has 1 monitor, so I'll have to wait until he tabs over. Okay, let's see. Ellie 4-piece. We'll go back to the sub thing when he gets here. 4-piece redesigned. Primwave now makes your Lava Burst just do 25% additional damage over 4 seconds for 10 seconds. When you chain lightning, you can just follow it up with a Lava Burst that will do basically... It won't do the Primwave cleave again for all the Flame Shock targets, but if you're casting it on a target with Flame Shock, it will like shoot out 3 again. And those other targets don't have to have Flame Shock on them. So I'm assuming this is a buff. My only real concern with this is this seems like it has the issue that the Warlock tier bonuses had, where it just doesn't really do anything on single target, right? Like literally nothing. Like it could even say, you know, something like for each 10 seconds, each cast of Chain Lightning causes this. It should say like Chain Lightning causes your... Wait, it does? The dot? I mean, okay, guys, that's not... If your set on single target says when consuming Prim Wave and for 10 seconds afterward, your Lava Burst does 25% extra damage, that is fucking piss. All I'm saying is this. You change the tier piece to say for the next 10 seconds when you cast Chain Lightning, your Lava Burst will AoE, but when you cast Lightning Bolt or Earth Shock or some kind of like single target spell, it makes your Lava Burst like shoot twice on one target or something like that. This just depends on if the dot accumulates like DP. Oh, like you think it might, if you're like spamming Lava Burst, it might override the previous buffs. I assume it definitely works like that. It would accumulate. It would be crazy if it didn't work that way. Okay, so does Ellie, the question is, does Ellie go up? Ellie was before, but is Ellie like hype now? They're not like super hype, but it sounds fun. Good changes, but still doesn't have a raid buff, but that's not this patch's fault. That's the game's fault. We'll move it up somewhere in here. Here's what James said about sub. Going back to sub. James said, I think sub was actually feeling pretty good. It feels the same in AoE as it used to. Shadowblade's got buffed, so it's a real CD now, and I think the playstyle actually feels pretty good. You actually have to think about it a little bit in single target. You also have to think about your CDs in a dungeon, like do I hold or save for the boss, which you never really used to. It's a little weird because you have to hold your 90 seconds. Okay, yeah, all that is cool, but like, is it down from feeling real good or nah? Waiting for him to respond. We'll have to get THD on the line to talk about these, but he did say that all the changes for Warlock were good today. So Resto Shaman is down astronomical, I think. So when we first heard the tier bonus, they said they got absolutely fucked. And then after we talked about it, and they had a few days to think about it, they were like, you know what, it's actually really good. It did really, really well. But the playstyle was horrible, but it was so powerful that it was fine. And now they nerfed the power of it, and the playstyle is still bad, so certainly down and got absolutely fucked. The question is, do they need God? Needs Thrall? Nah, God's good. God is good, amen. All right, James responding. Let's put Resto Shaman in there. Resto Shaman has seemed kind of lost for a while. Interesting that they didn't nerf Spirit Link the same way they nerfed everything else, but I guess Spirit Link's DR by default was lower than those other ones. And the strength of Spirit Link isn't necessarily in its DR. I'm not advocating for it to be nerfed. I actually... If you guys were to poll the entire WoW population on how good raid cooldowns were and asked to rank them, I feel like Spirit Link would be ranked number 1, number 2, or number 3 at the worst. And in my opinion, I think there are like 4 cooldowns that are better than Spirit. I think Spirit Link is so overrated by the casual population of the game. It's way down there. So I don't think it needs to be nerfed, just like a few other ones didn't need to be. So I'm actually okay with that. Life Cocoon and Pain Suppression are the best healer externals in the game. Fight me. Oh, I would definitely fight you. I wouldn't agree with either of those things. I guess Pain Suppression with 2 charges is good, but I would say that Hand of Sacrifice and Time Dilation are definitely the best. I still think Sac is like a little better than Time Dilation. So Time Dilation is a much bigger number, but you have to deal with the after effects of it, which on some scenarios doesn't matter, which makes it actually a true like 50 to 70% DR. But Sac is just always 45%. Is it still 45 with that talent, the 15% extra thing? And like, if you have a 45% CD on you, you're not dead in like 99% of situations. It's like 43. But I mean, yeah, it's still, I mean, Sac is so good. I mean, there is a downside to Sac in that your Holy Paladin takes damage. Your Holy Paladin can definitely die from sacking you. It won't, I don't think Sac can kill you, but it can obviously put you in a position for something else to kill you. Yeah, and the 15% persist, yeah. Actually, is Cocoon the worst external? It's between Ironbark and, Cocoon. I would rather have Ironbark than, there's definitely a world where I would rather be Cocooned than Ironbarked. Okay, I would actually put it like this. Ironbark on a tank is significantly better than Cocoon, but I think in most scenarios where you're using an external on a DPS player, I think Cocoon is actually going to be more impactful than Ironbark. That's the way I'd look at it. It depends on the situation. Like if you know the damage is happening, if you're trying to reduce like a 12-second event of damage, then Ironbark is better. But like if you Ironbark someone when they've already dropped to 20%, you're not doing anything. But like you using Life Cocoon at 20% is like super, super valuable.
So, like, you don't even have to be proactive with it. How bad people are at Disc Priest shows you how important for healers not having to be a proactive player matters. Actually, yeah, I'll stamp that. I think if you take tanking out of the equation, I think Life Cocoon is better than Ironbark. I think. But for tanking, I would always prefer an Ironbark. Anyways, random sidebar about some random external cooldown. Okay, so James said, sub is still and feeling really good. You lost AoE Kidney, but you couldn't really take AoE Kidney without losing a bunch of damage anyway, so it's probably still up there. All right, so he's saying that this shit isn't that big of a deal. All right, cool. Or too good or bad. Are you around, big homie, in pull? I'm getting THD. Getting THD on the line. Hello.
Yo, what's good? It's Magmarax up in here.
Okay. You had... Let's start with an easy one. Do you think Affliction goes up at all with the tier set change?
I mean, that's the only change, right?
It's the only change to Affliction is the 4-piece, yeah.
It's a good change. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just fixing it so it actually works in Mythic Plus.
Okay, that's fine. So Affliction stays top of Demo got 1 million buffs plus tier set redesigns. What is the general idea? So Demo was in Sent Back to Hell category, which has been renamed to Needs God, and then after 1 week of changes, somehow it got worse. Do you still feel like it is there?
Well, they didn't fix any of the playstyle issues.
Okay, that matters.
I mean, you can buff the damage of all those abilities by 30%, right? The spec still plays great.
Okay.
Sure, you can say it goes up in terms of like damage, but the spec still plays pretty.
Yeah, but if you're a Demo lock, you're still turbo in the depths.
Yeah, pretty much in terms of just playstyle and the way it plays, it just doesn't feel great. Does it do better damage now? And can it actually do good damage now? Probably, but
okay, that has to go back up to at least Needs God though.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's fine. And then Destro got buffed by...
Well, they fixed the Rain of Fire increase issue, which they basically didn't compensate for before.
Okay.
And they made the tier set work in AoE, so it's in the same place.
Where was it before? Oh yeah, in All right, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much changes there.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the call, big dog. Good luck on the Magma dog.
Yep.
Yeah, see ya. All right. Warlocks move 1 up from somehow it got worse to Needs God. THD is definitely a huge pessimist. Look, I think he singularly has the lowest opinion on Warlock design at Blizzard than anyone I know. But when they described to me all of the things that were wrong, like, again, it's very important for you guys not to see one post and be like, oh, there's just a lot of, like, text there. Like, they fucking ruined the way this class played last week, and they're still reeling from that, and they're going to make their damage a little bit better, but I could definitely still see it. And he's been playing it, yeah, so. Okay. Warrior. All right, so. So Arms was feeling like they got some good changes going into the thing. They, like, changed the Ignore Pain, which, like, they lost a little power, but it was less cringe. They're buffing Slam again, which, again, people feel like it probably needs to be buffed by a lot more. The question is, does Arms go down because Rallying Cry is nerfed in half? I mean, it has to, right? I mean, that's massive. But, like, so did everyone else. Everyone else's raid cooldowns got nerfed, but theirs got nerfed more than everyone else's. But I didn't drop anyone else for their raid CD being nerfed. It was their only CD. The Slam changes don't do anything. Well, I mean, yeah, so that would... You're basically just... I don't know. If I'm a warrior, yeah, you're saying you want some other utility, but do you feel like you're just pessimistic about the patch now specifically because of this change? From the few warriors I've seen type in chat, they definitely seem down. They did not seem down last week, 2 weeks ago. I'll put them down. I think it's big. I think it's big enough. Does Fury go into get absolutely fucked here? I don't know if it's that big. Yes, Fury is fucked. Okay, let's send him down to the depths. Okay, Prot Warrior. Last one to get changed. They basically made the 2-piece now a 10% reduction buff on you rather than a debuff on the singular target you shield slammed, while nerfing the single target damage of consuming your bleeds, which was definitely overperforming, which so is arguably a very needed nerf. And they increased the Thunderous Roar cooldown reduction from the 4-piece. It's a regular 14 to 16% DR. Yeah. Well, so does that jump up a whole level though? It's big. It's bad in raid. I don't know if it's that bad in raid. You're just saying like what the single target damage being so much more prevalent in raid means that it's like a nerf. I think Prot Warrior would struggle against a really, really hard hitting end boss. So I feel like the damage reduction would actually feel good in raid. It's like a 50% nerf in raid to single target, Okay, but if it's a 50% nerf and rate a single target, that's because the initial tier bonus clearly gave you way, 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 way too much single target, right? like, like an unreasonable amount, right? I think it goes up. That 2-piece is fucking crazy. Oh, but no, they nerfed rally though. No. You're right. No. Okay, sorry. Tier bonus up, rally nerf down. In fact, rally was kind of the few times we have played Prot Warrior in the race rolled first, it was because of rally and cry every time. I can tell you, I would have to think on this more, but I'm pretty sure if rally and cry was only 10% in those raids, we actually would not have done that. We would have done something else. So that would drop it down for me. Havoc DH already? Yeah, we are looking at Havoc. I don't know who I can call for this, though. So Evade said he didn't want to talk about it because he would be super dobby.
Jeddah said he's still trying to figure it all out, but he can chat quick. We shouldn't rank it before people know. If you guys need a weekend to play Demon Hunter to, like, really feel out the changes, then we can just do that, you know?